Good morning, church.
Good morning.
I have to tell you, getting to be up here, having the privilege of God letting me be up here to share His Word is indescribable. I always feel inadequate, and I am inadequate. And it's only through Him that His Word will come out. I'm so thankful for this opportunity to come up here and share His Word. I realized this morning this message is probably more for me than it is for you. I was reminded this morning as I was getting ready that just like everyone else, I have things in my life I need to change. It's kind of like getting hit between the eyes of the rock. Stops you in your tracks. I don't wear my vest, but I wore it this morning for a reason. Yesterday I was having, day before yesterday, I was having a conversation with an individual about the image that we put forth to the public. I got up this morning, God just put it on my heart. There was a patch on my vest I needed to take off. I've had this, I'm a Vietnam era vet, like many of you. And I had this patch relating to Jane Fonda and forgiving her. I'm sorry I ever put it on.
Amen.
Amen. Doesn't mean I'll ever forget what she did to my brothers in arms. But it has no business on my vest. What we do have business wearing is this shirt.
Amen. Amen. Praise the Lord.
So, this message is for me. Our main passage today is going to be Luke 10, the parable of the Good Samaritan. I'm going to be reading to you from the NIV. Week before last, I was spent the week in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Rained every day. I had plans to go up there, and during this conference I was going to sneak away one day and go to the Harley shop and rent a Harley, and I was going to be able to add 3 states to the number of states I've ridden in. Rain every day. So I think they asked me if I brought it up there with me, and I said, maybe so, because we didn't have it down here. But, the things we plan doesn't mean they're going to work out.
That's right.
And that in itself was another reminder to me. It's amazing how God reminds us of things if we'll just stop and listen. So, from the NIV, verse 25 in Luke 10. One day an expert on religious law stood up to test Jesus by asking him this question. Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life? He was asking Jesus to give him something to do so he could have eternal life. He wanted something to do. He wanted his obligations spelled out, listed exactly what he had to do, with his limits clearly defined. In verse 26, Jesus replied, what is written in the law? How do you read it? And the man answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your might. Love your neighbor as yourself. So instead of a chore or a job or a list or whatever, these verses describe a relationship that affects every aspect of our lives. Every aspect of our lives. So then later on, the man asked Jesus to explain who his neighbor was. We're going to love our neighbor as ourselves. Okay, I can deal with that. That's not bad, Mike. Who's my neighbor? Who is my neighbor? So Jesus answered him with the parable, or in the parable. In verse 30, he said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. Biblical scholars will tell you that we presume, if you will, that this individual was of Jewish descent, or was a Jew. He was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, they beat him, and they went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road. And when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side, across the road, to go the other way. Maybe he had just come from the temple, and he might have been concerned about impurities in this individual who was either dead or dying. Verse 32, so too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed on the other side of the road. Levites, as you know, were the temple helpers. So again, it could have been him being concerned with touching a dead body, which in the Jewish tradition, in the day, they did not touch dead bodies, so that it would remain cleansed. So that's also possible, and it's also possible maybe they just didn't want to get involved. You ever been there?
Yeah.
I have. They just didn't want to get involved. Hey, doesn't concern me. Or maybe they were thinking, well, the robbers could be hiding behind that rock or behind that bush. And if I go over there, they're going to attack me, and I'm going to be laying right down there beside them. We don't know what went through their minds. And I guess that's really not that important. In verse 33, a Samaritan, as he traveled, came to where the man was. And you know the relationship of that period of time between Samaritans and Jews. There wasn't a relationship. They did not associate. They were at war, more or less, with each other. So when the Samaritan saw the man, he took pity on him. And he went to him and he bandaged his wounds. And he poured oil and wine on him. And then he put the man on his own donkey. He brought him to an inn and took care of him. This is his enemy. This is an individual he should not have anything to do with by the law of the day. The next day he took out 2 denarii, which at that time was about 2 days' wages for the average person. And he gave those 2 denarii to the innkeeper. And he told the innkeeper, look after him. And when I return, I'll reimburse you for any extra expense that you may have. I guess today we would say that's the extra mile, right, Scott? He went the extra mile, or maybe the 2 extra miles, or whatever. So in verse 36, Jesus says, which of these 3 do you think was neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? Which one of these individuals was acting as a neighbor? Now, in the Old Testament, neighbor usually meant a member of the same community, their community, or a fellow Israelite. In my opinion, with this parable, by using a Jew and a Samaritan, Jesus removed all the boundaries from that.
Amen.
It's not somebody who lives in Georgetown or in Durham or Williamson County or Texas or the United States. He opened the door in my eyes that everyone is considered our neighbor. Warring or not, it doesn't matter. So in verse 37, the expert of the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. And Jesus told him, go and do likewise. He didn't give him a specific chore. He didn't give him a specific job to go and do so he could have eternal life. He told him to change his way of life. For today, we don't need to change anything in that. The same message is for us today. Everyone on the face of this earth is our neighbor. And Jesus himself told us you're to love everyone. You're to care for everyone. See, the priest and the Levite walking down the road may have felt pity for that poor guy over here in the ditch or wherever he was. They may have felt pity of that poor guy. Man, I'm sorry that happened to him. But they didn't show him any mercy, and they certainly didn't show him any love. And I know in my life I can see the same thing. And it brings a feeling of guilt to me to know that I haven't followed Jesus' command. That I need to practice what's on the back of this shirt. I need to practice it all day, every day, to every person I encounter. Like I said, I feel like this is for me. So how seriously do we, as Christians, and not just us here, talking about Christians everywhere, how seriously do we take this command today? How much love do you see demonstrated? And I'm going to go one step farther, and it's not in my notes. How much love have you seen in the past, I'm going to say 2 months, demonstrated in our society? I would venture to say not a whole lot.
Satan's plan.
We got to set the bar high. We have to be the examples. We have to show everyone else what it's like to love your fellow man with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind and all your body. How do we do that? There's only one way. We can't do it on earth. There's only one way. So the biggest question is, how can you love God and not love your fellow man or not love him? How can any one of us, myself included, folks, the fingers pointed here, how can you do that? How can you do that? How can you say, yes, God, I love you with all my heart, but, you know, these guys over here, not so much. I don't really care about them. And how many of us, myself included, do this every day? Jesus answered this question. In 1 John, it was written in 1 John 2:9. Anyone who claims to be in the light, referring to the love of God. And that's us. Okay? But hates his brother or sister, is still in darkness. So I ask you again, how can you say that you're a child of God? How can I say that I'm a child of God? And have that hardened in my heart. So let's look at today. Did Jesus say, hey, go out and choose who your neighbors are? go out and say, okay, well, this 50% is my neighbor's. These over here are not my neighbor. This individual is my neighbor. This individual is not. Absolutely not. Not a chance. As Christians, we're commanded to love them as we love ourselves. We love ourselves quite a bit, don't we? We take care of ourselves. We do everything we can to make sure we have what we need. And most of us make sure that we have what we want, not just what we need. What do we do for our neighbors? In this parable, I was looking through this parable and reading through some notes, and there's three attitudes that are displayed in this parable. The thieves, their attitude was, what's yours is mine, and I'm going to take it. We see that today, don't we? The second was the priest and the Levite. What's mine is mine, and I'm going to keep it.
That's right.
You worry about yourself. And the third was the Samaritan. What's mine is yours, and I will share it. That gets pretty deep, doesn't it? So what attitude does the world see in you and me? Are we the thieves? Are we the priest and the Levite? Or are we the good Samaritan? Pretty deep. Pretty deep. So even more importantly than what the world sees, what attitude is in your heart? What attitude is in your heart Monday morning? What attitude is in your heart Thursday afternoon or Friday night? We don't get to pick and choose times, folks. I don't get to pick and choose times. I'm called to love my neighbors as myself 24/7, 365 days a year, and every fourth year, 366. All the time. How do we do that? There's only one way, and that's through Jesus Christ. We cannot do that on our own. None of us are that strong. None of us have that ability. But through Jesus, all of us have that ability. In the book of John, chapter 15, verse 13, Jesus said the greatest love is shown when a person lays down his life for his friends. I don't know how many times I've heard that. I don't know how many times I've read that. But what does that mean? To lay down your life for another person. Usually, most people think of it as dying for another person. Literally, physically being killed or dying for another person. Or for your country. That's not the meaning that's implied here. In 1 John 3, verses 17 and 18, the Apostle John gives us an example of what it means to lay down your life. Verse 17, if anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? That changes the whole picture of laying down your life. It makes it a lot simpler. In verse 18, dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. What's in here? What do we feel? Not necessarily just what we do, but what do we feel? That's the love of God. That's loving your neighbor as you do yourself. This was, again, a big reminder for me, flashing billboard, whatever. Get it right. Get it straight. What's love? Love's a word that we use every day, right? Does a day go by that you don't use the word love?
No.
Or at least think about love? Probably not. How many times a day do you say that you love an inanimate object? Guys, how many of you love a motorcycle? Ooh, Gene, I love what you did to your bike. What does that mean? I love food. Well, that was true, I'm sorry. You know, how many times do we use that? What have we done to the word love? What does it mean today in our society? It's almost a disposable word. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what is in here. That's not what's supposed to be in our hearts. Loving an inanimate object doesn't cut it. So I looked up some definitions in Webster's dictionary. A feeling of strong or constant affection for a person. On the internet, put in love definitions and it comes up. There's the free dictionary. It's an internet dictionary. A strong feeling of affection and concern toward another person, as that arising from kinship or close friendship. Again, person, not inanimate object. Not even motorcycles. I just understand. So one biblical scholar states it, and it's almost biblical here. According to the Bible, love is caring in action. Love is not what we feel, but it's what we do. Loving one another, folks, is our greatest commandment. It's our greatest commandment. As Christians, we're called upon to hate the sin. But we're also commanded to love the sinner. I just, in my mind, I keep going back to everything that's been on the internet, everything that's been in the news, about all the different things and what's happening in our country today. What's happening to our country? Where is it going? Where are we headed? You know what? We're headed where He wants us to be headed. It's not up to us. And as I was preparing this, it came to my mind that this could be a hard thing for some of us. It is for me. But nobody said it's going to be easy. God takes us to places that we know we can't go any farther without Him.
Yeah.
It's His purpose. He takes us there, and we have to believe in Him. And we have to have faith in Him to take that next step.
That's right. That's right.
Is that where we are now? Is that where you are now? Is that where I am now? We have to realize every day we're nothing except for Him.
Right.
Do you have the love of God in your heart? We all say yes, don't we? Somebody asks you, you love God? Do you have God's love in your heart? Oh, yeah. Do you know the passion and the feeling that comes with the promise of eternal life? I pray that everyone in here does. There's only one way to get eternal life. It's not a chore. It's not a job. And we can only do it through Jesus Christ. Not one of us can do it on our own.
That's right.
not one. Romans 10, everybody's pretty familiar, gives us explicit instructions for attaining eternal life. If you declare with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, and you believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Is that hard? Is it hard for people to understand? Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. But every individual that calls on the name of the Lord will be saved.
Amen.
Praise Jesus. Everyone, not most, not 99 out of 100, but every individual who confesses Jesus is Lord. And they know and they believe in their heart that God raised him from the dead will be saved. Everyone. It's amazing. It's an amazing gift that we're given. And it's something that I need to remember every day. At work, at home, on the way to and from, whatever, not just when I get here. I need to remember how I got to where I am. It's by the grace of God that I'm standing up there, up here, up there. Put myself out there. Only by the grace of God that I'm allowed to get up here and share with you what God put on my heart.
Right.
God gave me this on the airplane on the way back from Pittsburgh, and I think the people around me probably thought I was crazy because I was hunting for pen and paper and everything else, start writing stuff down on a crowded airplane half the way back from Pittsburgh. I couldn't write it fast enough. I never can. He starts giving me words, and I pray that I never, ever preach a sermon that's not 100% from God. My opinion doesn't matter.
That's right.
My words don't matter. It's his words that matter. So I would challenge myself, a lot of each of you, is think about this. Think about it tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and Thursday, and Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday, all the days until you're called to glory. Our commandment is to love our neighbor, and our neighbor is every person on the face of this earth. We don't have to agree with them, folks. I'm not asking that. I'm not suggesting that. We don't have to agree with what they think or who they are or how they feel or how they act. But we have to love them. Because that is the greatest commandment. I feel very honored this morning to have evangelisms here. Gina, would you dismiss us, please, with a word of prayer?
Father, we love you. We just, every time we can come together in your name, Lord, it's just a joy. I thank you for the word this morning. I thank you that you just put love on our hearts. Lord, I know this message is from you because, well, you've given me a very similar message for today. And Lord, it's always such a joy when we can see your hand moving in your church. Father, I thank you for this body, for this building, but more than that, for the church. For the opportunities that you give us to share your word, and to actually go out and share your love with one another, share your love with our neighbors. Thank you for the reminder of who our neighbor is. Thank you for the promises. Thank you for your salvation, for your grace and your mercy. We just know we deserve. Father, I don't think it would be ORBC if I didn't offer the opportunity. There's a single person in this room that doesn't know you, hasn't accepted you into their hearts. Father, if they would just open their hearts to you, they would accept that promise and accept that invitation. They would confess that you're Son.
It's not us, it's up there.
He is your Son. He is raised from the dead. Call on his name every day. Be with us as we go. Let the world know that we spent time with Jesus. We love you. We worship